open your laptop. The task is sitting right there. You know exactly what you need to do. And then, 45 minutes later, you've somehow watched 3 videos about the history of vending machines and you have absolutely nothing done. Sound familiar? Today I'm going to show you exactly how to lock in for hours on hard tasks. And I mean genuinely lock in, not the fake version where you sit at your desk, but your mind is somewhere in another dimension. There are specific reasons why your brain fights you on this. And once you understand those reasons, you can flip the whole thing around. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Your brain is not broken. It's actually working perfectly. The problem is it's been optimized for the wrong environment. Every time you pick up your phone and scroll, your brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine. Every swipe, every notification, every new piece of content is a small reward with 0 effort attached to it. Your brain loves this deal. Why would it want to sit down and wrestle with something genuinely difficult when it can get the same feeling of pleasure for basically nothing? This is the core battle you're fighting whenever you try to lock in. You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. Your reward system has just been trained to expect constant, effortless stimulation. Here's where most people go wrong. They try to use sheer willpower to overcome this. They sit down, they tell themselves to focus, and they white-knuckle their way through it until they crack and grab their phone again. Willpower alone is not a strategy. It's a limited resource, and it runs out fast. What you actually need is to work with your brain's reward system instead of against it. Let me walk you through how to do that. The first thing you need to address before you even think about sitting down to work is your environment. Your attention is not one big undivided thing. Think of it more like a battery with a fixed charge. Every single distraction pulls a little bit of that charge away. Your phone buzzing on the desk, a tab open in your browser, someone talking in the background, all of it chips away at the mental energy available for the actual task. Most people try to focus in environments that are essentially designed to drain that battery as fast as possible. The fix sounds stupidly simple, but it works. Before you start, remove every possible distraction from your physical and digital environment. Phone in another room, not face down on the desk. Actually in another room. Close tabs that have nothing to do with what you're working on. Tell people around you that you need uninterrupted time. This single step can double your effective focus immediately. Now let's talk about actually getting into the locked-in state, because this is where most people never go. You've probably heard of flow state, that zone where you're so absorbed in something that time disappears and you're operating at your absolute best. That state doesn't just happen randomly. It has specific conditions that trigger it. The task needs to be challenging enough to be engaging, but not so overwhelming that you freeze. If something feels too massive, your brain will resist starting it at all. The solution is to shrink the entry point. Instead of thinking about the whole project, the whole essay, the whole study session, just define the very next small action. What's the first specific thing you need to do in the next 25 minutes? That's it. That's all your brain needs to commit to. This is where timed work sessions become incredibly powerful. Set a timer for 25 minutes and commit fully to one thing and one thing only during that window. No checking anything else. No multitasking, just that one task. Your brain responds really well to finite challenges. Knowing there's an endpoint makes it easier to resist the pull of distractions because the discomfort feels temporary. When the timer goes off, take a real break. And here's the critical part that almost everyone messes up. A real break means something that genuinely lets your mind rest. Going for a short walk, sitting quietly, getting some water. It does not mean picking up your phone and scrolling. That keeps your brain in a stimulated state, and you'll return to your work just as scattered as before. You've essentially traded one type of mental demand for another. The break is supposed to recharge you, not just redirect your stimulation. Here's something that most productivity advice completely skips over. Your ability to focus is a trainable skill, not a fixed trait. If you can only lock in for 10 minutes right now before your mind wanders, that's fine. That's your current starting point. But if you practice directed, single-task focus consistently, that window grows over time. Think about it like physical fitness. Nobody runs a marathon on their first day of training. You build the capacity gradually. People who seem to effortlessly work for hours aren't born that way. They've trained that muscle repeatedly over time. Your physiology matters more than people realize too. If you're sleeping less than 7 hours, your concentration takes a serious hit, regardless of what techniques you use. Exercise, Even something as simple as a short daily walk releases neurotransmitters that genuinely improve your ability to engage with cognitively demanding tasks. Being dehydrated creates mental fog that makes focus feel like pushing through mud. These basics are not optional extras. They are the foundation that everything else sits on. Now let's talk about timing, because when you try to focus matters just as much as how. The morning, roughly an hour after waking up, is when most people have their sharpest and most undistracted mental state. Your brain hasn't been bombarded by the demands of the day yet. Your working memory is fresh. There are typically fewer external interruptions. If you want to do your hardest work, protect your mornings aggressively. If you try to lock in during a chaotic afternoon, after your attention has already been scattered in 12 different directions, you're essentially trying to sprint on empty legs. There's one more piece to this that separates people who occasionally focus from people who lock in consistently. It comes down to how you relate to the task itself. When you approach hard work with dread and obligation, your brain treats it like a threat to be avoided. But when you shift into genuine curiosity, when you ask, what can I actually figure out here? Or what would happen if I really understood this deeply? The entire experience changes. Curiosity is one of the most powerful focus states available to you. It naturally draws your attention in and holds it there. You can deliberately activate it by asking better questions about the material in front of you before you start. So, here's the actual playbook. Remove your distractions completely before you begin. Break your task down into the smallest possible entry point. Set a timer and commit to one thing for 25 minutes. Take genuine restorative breaks between sessions. Protect your mornings for your hardest work. Keep training your focus like a skill over time. Take care of your sleep, movement, and hydration. And approach your work with curiosity instead of dread. This stuff works, not because it's magic, but because it works with how your brain actually operates instead of fighting against it. The people you see who seem to effortlessly grind for hours aren't superhuman. They've just figured out the conditions that make deep focus feel natural rather than painful. Start implementing even one of these things today, and you'll notice the difference faster than you think. If this helped you, drop a comment telling me which part you're going to try first. And subscribe because there's a lot more of this coming.